Big Shots is the 19th episode of the third season of Everybody Loves Raymond. This is directed by Steve Zuckerman, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. To be honest, I didn't really care for this episode. I didn't dislike it, but when I try and point to anything that I particularly liked, apart from one quote from Robert, there wasn't really anything, so definitely not a favourite. It starts off in the house, in Ray and Debra's house. Marie comes over and asks Ray if he'll take Robert to the Hall of Fame because the Mets are going to be there. Ray says he doesn't really want to, and then we cut to Ray and Robert in the car. So clearly they're going. And we spend quite a bit of time in the car in this episode, and I've mentioned this before, I'm sure I'll mention it again. In general, I don't like scenes that are filmed in cars. There are exceptions, but in general, I just don't find them that interesting. And the car scenes here, not that good. We then get to the Hall of Fame. The baseball players are there. We have Art Shamsky, which Robert is very excited about because, well, his dog is named after Shamsky. And unfortunately, they need to go to the back of the line. Makes sense. But Ray is trying to use his fame as the sports writer to cut in line. It doesn't happen. They end up having to leave. We're then in a diner, and I guess it was nice to have a different location, but nothing really interesting happened here other than one quote from Robert. And Robert is basically trying to tell Ray his behaviour wasn't acceptable. He is a better person than him because he's humble. And the quote that I really liked is when Robert said, "It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice." I want that on a t-shirt. That is fabulous. That is beautiful. Very well crafted sentence. And it's true. Yes, it's nice to have Ray's level of fame and the things that it can potentially bring him, but it's nicer to be a good person. And I love that. I thought it was beautiful. So even though the rest of the episode I thought was a little bit dull, that part of it was so worth it. We're then back in the car. There are some flashing lights. They're pulled over. Ray was speeding slightly. And I did like the fact that Robert wasn't willing to help out initially and say that he was a police officer because Ray had spoken to him not very nicely. But Robert does eventually whip out his badge. It doesn't go according to plan. It completely backfires. Not the most interesting, but I guess it was a little bit unpredictable. I wasn't sure exactly how that scene was going to play out, so I guess that was a tiny bit fascinating. And we then... not a lot happens after that. We then cut back to the diner very briefly. The all-important baseball players are now trying to cut in line at the diner because there's a busy wait. And I like the fact that it showed that actually people of importance may play the "Do you know who I am" card. And it doesn't always work. And then we're back in the car and they're singing and that's it. That's the end. Nothing else happens. So honestly, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it in the sense that I was bored or anything. I just didn't really get any enjoyment out of this particular episode. Big Shots is not terrible. And that quote from Robert, "It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice," is absolutely beautiful. The rest of the episode, fine. I didn't really care for it very much. Not a personal favourite. Not terrible. Would I skip it? I might do. If I'm binge watching this season, I might skip it. But, as I said, it's not terrible, but personally, I didn't particularly love it.